Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Dr. Kevin Pallas from the New Renaissance, and I'm going to be showing everybody here how to have a more economically and a much more fun practice by identifying 10 mistakes, if you will, that are hidden that are sabotaging your practice. It's just amazing because with coaching hundreds of chiropractors over the years, there's a common thread that binds all of them, and here it is. They're doing things in their practice that they don't know they're doing. And when you don't know you're doing, you keep getting these results and you're kind of like, what's going on here? This isn't what I wanted. So today, we're going to guide you with these 10 mistakes that most of us are doing. You're going to have all kinds of opportunities here for giveaways. We have free books. We have free consultation opportunities. You can share this with other people. They won't get all the benefits that people are watching this will, but they'll be able to get the gist of it. So here we go a little bit more, and we're going to start right into the program, okay? I think most chiropractors watching this will agree. There's some changes that could happen in chiropractic that could allow chiropractic to get to more people. Is that fair to say? Would we all be in agreement? I think most of us would, okay? And if we look at this diagram a little bit over here, this circle is where you're at now, okay? It's where you're at now, and here's where you want to be. So going all over the country in Canada, I ask people, what are some of the gripes right now that are in your practice? It's almost like chiropractic isn't loving on enough people. You know what I'm talking about. One of the first things people say is this: insurance. Uh-oh. Between deductibles, between co-pays, between phantom benefits. We have people that have $18,000 deductibles. That's not insurance, it's silly. And insurance is really difficult. Medicare with the regulations and the audits and all of these things going on, it really can interfere with our service to people. Yes? So one of the first, not really gripes, but one of the things that people say is, come on now, this insurance thing is difficult. Number one. Number two, patients that don't get it. They just don't get it. You know what I'm talking about. You can talk about the chiropractic story. You can talk about Harvey Lillard. They don't get it. And it's frustrating because sometimes they pretend to get it. They pretend to get it to get what they want, which is a lot of times short-term symptomatic relief. So people don't get it and they don't understand it. You'll hear me say over and over throughout the webinar that all your problems stem from a patient's lack of understanding. The third thing that really gets people nationwide and all the audiences, all the different seminars that I teach, and this is what it is: non-compliant patients. You say 3 times a week for 12 weeks, they say maybe I can come in once. You say twice a week for 6 weeks, they say maybe I can come in every few weeks. It's this constant negotiation that really can wear down a chiropractor. It really does. And here's one, it's one of the big reasons that I made this webinar to really appeal to everyone watching this is this: a lot of chiropractors find themselves out of fair exchange. And this isn't just the likely candidates, people that are having a really hard time with the economics of chiropractic. Sometimes they're stuck. We have people over 500 patient visits a week, stuck, making tremendous incomes, but it's not where they want to be. See, it's not a number in economic. It's just being out of exchange. People not thinking that you have value. Again, laughing at your recommendations, laughing, if you will, at what we do. So those are the big things of what we're complaining about right now, and where do we want to go? Insurance or cash, I'm going to show you this, that you can be very successful. Just watching this today, you'll start to see a direction. The second thing, practice members not getting it. You'll see it in one of our mistakes that people make. They don't get it because they don't know any better. And that's why I'm here today, is to help you. If you're not showing them what they're supposed to be responsible for, they won't understand it. And again, remember, most of the practice, if not all of your practice frustrations, are from a patient lack of understanding. The third thing, non-compliant practice members or patients. It always feels like you're in a boxing match, a jab here and an uppercut here. And you're doing all this stuff because you're constantly negotiating with people, and there's no need for it. There really isn't. Because you'll see one of the mistakes that people make is that when people are in a relationship of trust, they'll accept your recommendations. And the fourth, oh boy, being in fair exchange. A lot of chiropractors watching this, they have rather modest type of practices right now. There's no reason for it. And if you can just get some of the nuggets out of this and put it into practice, one of the things that's amazing, you can get off this webinar, and with the very next person, you can put it into use. And it's really exciting. And one of the big benefits, I want to mention this a bunch of times, but you can email me any questions. And for the next hour after this is over, I will take that hour for people that watch this webinar. See, it pays to watch. I will answer every one of them personally within 1 hour of the conclusion of this webinar. So there you go, another added benefit for sharing your time with us and making a real community of chiropractic. And I thank you. A little bit about me that will help you understand just a little bit more where I come from. When I was growing up, there were only two classifications of kids. You see, I was really sick. I had ear infections all the time, and I missed a lot of school. So when I was in the first grade, I couldn't hear very well. We weren't doing much. We were doing painting and whatnot. And I just tapped the guy next to him, an elbow. Hey, what did the lady say? And he acted like it was my hearing aid, my best buddy. Second grade, though, I couldn't get away with it. And this is what happened. I got flagged. And there was only two R's. There was a regular kid, and then with a big, thick Boston accent, retarded kid. So you're either regular or retarded. I got assigned to the retarded class. There I am in the second grade, not knowing what's going on. I know you guys right now, why don't you tell somebody? As I tell the story, you'll understand why. You didn't have a lot of rights. You were supposed to be seen, not heard. It was almost a satanic or a negative or back then retarded children. It was almost like when AIDS first was discovered. It was almost like those type of people. Society looked down. They didn't know how to react. It was a bigotry, an ignorance, whatever you want to call it. And I'm in my second grade class, and I'm saying to the head lady, get me out of here. Get me out of here. Get me out of here. I got to get out of here. I don't belong here. And she'd say, you're here. Once you got assigned, that was it. So we're on a board, much like this, for months with CAT. C, underline, underline. I got my hand up. I said, lady, pick on me, pick on me. I know the answer. She goes, Kevin, put your hand down. Let some of the other kids answer. Well, they're not going to be able to answer. They were really, really tough kids. They had real problems. And you guys watching this, most of you guys are millennials and Generation X. There's this wooden thing that you can measure distance, units of distance, or you can use it as a weapon. It's called a ruler. Look it up in your Wikipedia. And when I put my hand up, she'd whack it. And everyone always asks, parochial? Believe it or not, no. Public school, but every time I raised my hand, she'd hit it. So I stopped raising my hand. And I just kind of put up with my existence. I was ashamed. I was humiliated. People say, where do you go during a day? Why are you with those? And they used to have a bad word for them. Why are you with those people? Why? And I just, when someone would ask me something, I couldn't hear real well. I just put my head down, and people thought that I was retarded. Along comes a student teacher, and she looks at me and says, there's something wrong with that guy, but he's not retarded. And she gave me homework. She saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and I was giving up hope in the second grade. And she said, I'll get you out of here if you read at the third grade level. So she's working me and working me and working me. Finally, I could read at the third grade level, but the head teacher didn't like this student intern telling her what to do. She threw the student intern out, then she threw me out. I was out finally. I was out of jail. It's almost like you were in a jail without bars. And I got out. And I was never able to thank this second grade student teacher, if you will, because she got fired. See, she put herself in harm's way to get me out of trouble. She was my reading angel. Fast forward, and I didn't know anything about chiropractic, and I'm not pretending, but I knew I wanted to give people second chances. People that were stuck, people that were just looking for someone or something to help them, to guide them. I knew I had to do it. Fast forward, I had a mentor. His name was Dr. Joe Felicia. He's not with us anymore. He started along with Dr. Guy Riegman, the New Renaissance. And he too saw something in me. He wanted to help. It's almost like he knew that my heart had closed up. A lot of people don't know, but I lost a daughter at birth. And there's a feeling of loss. There's a feeling of grieving. Is it just that you're angry and you don't even know why you're angry? You're just, ugh. And he knew something and he challenged me. I graduated first in my class. I'm in a white coat and a stethoscope. But he challenged me to say that there's more that you can do. And he challenged me to start adjusting children. And the more kids I saw, it was really hard for me. It's more of a medical type of person. But what he did is he challenged me to see kids. And what he did, he saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And when life throws you a curveball, sometimes you can just take it and say, that's it. Or there's someone there, someone in your corner. And if you look at the first handout, if you will, there's a picture of me with a saying. And I believe this to the day. I love helping people. And if you have someone in your corner, you can do almost anything. Dr. Joe helped me with these 10 mistakes because I couldn't see them. They were completely invisible to me. And you guys might have some invisible ones to you. And I encourage you, share this link with others because you'll see what your friends aren't doing. You might not be doing number 2. They might not be number 4 so good, but you'll see these mistakes. Fair enough? So let's go on to mistake number 1. All right? And when I say mistake, these are recommendations, okay? These are things based on a lot of help with a lot of people. And here it is. Everyone wants to adjust in the first visit. You can't help it. You just want to help people so much, and I get it. But this is what happens. It signals desperation. Most situations that you see are going to be chronic in nature. They really are. So even though something seems like it just happened, it usually didn't. And it takes a long time. And for you, think weight loss here, people, right? If all of a sudden you had the first training session with a person and then you called them up at night and said, how much weight did you lose? Did you get in shape? Everything all set? They'd think you were a nut. But we do this in chiropractic. An emergency room has a retention of 1. We don't want to emulate that because when patients or practice members can tell you what to do, it's done with because they got you on a string. It's almost like an angry child or child throwing a temper tantrum. You can't fall into that. You're in charge. And here's what happens. You're not going to get respect. If you take x-rays, you need time to maybe sleep on those x-rays. You need time to take a look at your exam results. Maybe sleep on those exam results. You really need some time. This is a human life that we're taking care of. And in adjusting it on the first visit, it's desperation. The world's smallest practices adjust on the first visit. Here's another thing to think about. Dr. Kevin, I'm about ready to flip off this webinar because you're heartless and you don't think about people in pain. Let me talk about the exception. I just talked about the rule. Let's talk about the exception. The exception is a person that's maybe out of work. The person that's just, they're out of work. They're hurting, okay? I have no problem. Evaluate them, x-ray if you take x-rays, send them home, and have them come back. Maybe even keep them in your office, maybe put some ice on, whatever they need, and then attend to them. Just give yourself a little time with those results. Separate yourself from the clinical. Start to put together a plan of attack, if you will, and then you can do it. Fair enough? Okay? So that's the first mistake, all right? The second mistake, we're only a few minutes into the webinar. We're already in trouble here. Here it is. You gotta create relationships of trust. It's like this factor is so much more important than your technique, I know you're screaming right now. Your insurance coverage, what kind of philosophy you have, but relationships of trust. They gotta feel they can trust you, and they gotta feel they're safe. If they feel you're just looking at their insurance policy, you're just trying to make money, or you're just doing a cookie cutter type of thing, they won't feel safe. See, too many people rely on the adjustment. It's not enough. It's not enough. The actual clinical results, and here's my proof. If you guys go into if some of you have paper, most of you are electronic now, but if you go back in your records right after this webinar and look at all the new people that have come and gone, ask yourself, where are they? They didn't come back. See, the adjustment is simply not enough. And we've been doing that for years and years. It doesn't work. I'm not making fun of great clinical. I'm very, very happy. But it's giving people the wrong idea. It's giving people the wrong idea. So that's that second type of mistake, if you will. It's huge. It's just not enough. And if we can just create relationships of trust, and realistically, what is trust? This is what trust is. That when people in a relationship, you're going to get great results. When you're not in a relationship with people, you're not going to get great results. How many times have you had a person that comes in and then they leave very quickly? And you kind of, what happened? They didn't feel safe. There was fear. This is something that's very different. A relationship allows people, here it comes, this is one of the biggest things I'll say today. It allows people, when you feel safe and related and in a trust relationship, it allows people to embrace new concepts. Embrace and accept new concepts, like health. Every person coming into your office kind of thinks they know what health, but you and I both know there's a little bit that they can learn, and that's an understatement, right? They don't get it. But if you're doing this, or if you're just paying attention to the table, it's not enough. And that's the problem, because everyone watching this is probably a pretty darn good clinician. I know you are. It's not enough. It's the relationship. And I'll give you proof. Remember when you were in student clinic? Some of the student clinicians that had lots of numbers, and they get their numbers very quickly, you guys know some of them weren't that technically proficient. You know what I'm talking about. But boy, could they make people feel good about it. And sometimes we make fun of those people, but sometimes they're the ones with the largest practices, because in today's sick care or health care, whatever you'd like to call it, in today's sick care, people know they're being pushed around, and there's so many people that fall through the cracks. Fair enough? Oh, the dinging's going off. You hear it? Ding, ding. We got our first giveaway, and here it is. You have a link here. If you look again into your handouts, there's going to be a link for our free book. It's a PDF file. It's called the No New Patient Solution. Now, it's a play on words, and what is it? It's actual book that emphasizes and shows you how to emphasize retention, referral, compliance, and having a bigger vision about chiropractic rather than plowing through new patients. And please, when you get it, don't just skim through it. Really read it. Really read it. Some people print it out, PDF type of thing, and then they mark it and underline it, take notes on it. Write me some emails and things, questions, feedback, whatever. This particular book has changed hundreds of chiropractors' lives. It's inspired hundreds of chiropractors to stop accepting a good practice when we can have a great practice. Fair enough? So that's your first offer. Look, it's right in your handouts. It's a thing. It's a click away, and you get a free book that will change your life and change your practice. Ready for the third mistake? Here it comes. It comes from almost comes from above. It's kind of like a little bit of inspiration here. I don't want to say it too loud, but here it is. Stop caving in to your patients. Everyone always asks me, how can I gain compliance with each and every person that I serve? And here's how. Stop caving in. Dr. Kevin, I can't come in 3 times a week. Could I come in 1 time a week? Is that okay? Dr. Kevin, I only have 16 visits and I don't want to use them all up. So if I spread them out a little bit, would that be okay with you? Now, I know some of you guys are laughing, but you know what I'm saying is true. Because it could be a relative, even. It could be your friends. It could be whoever. I'm here to tell you if you negotiate, you're part of the problem rather than being part of the solution. And that's the stickler part because you're a great clinician. But when you negotiate, you're lowering your own value. You're agreeing with them. They're saying chiropractic is not what you think it is. They don't think it's a gift to the world. They think it's more of a commodity. I'm here to say I don't agree. And I can disagree, but I'm not going to make the person wrong. But I'm not going to agree when they try to do this. And I'm going to give you something that I really hope you take to heart. And I hope you don't think it's woo out here or something, because it isn't. And here it is. Instead of answering a person, let me go through something. If she says 3 times the one time, and I say, no, I'm sticking with 3 times, well, then I just can't do it. I just can't afford it. Any question that I ask her like that, she pretty much has the answer before I even question. You guys are giggling right now because you know what I'm talking about is true, okay? What's the answer? Use a metaphor. A metaphor doesn't directly answer the question, but it solves the problem. And this is what you hear after a metaphor. Many, many times you'll hear, okay, let's do this thing. You know what? Run my card. How many people have had crabby practice members or patients turn into great ones? You know you have. So here's a metaphor, okay? This is a person that I coach from Michigan, and he has a childhood story that really brings up a lot of fire in him, and you can really hear it. So if a person says, I can't afford it, I can't come in, he says, you know, I'd like to share a story with you that may be able to help. Shine some light rather on it, and you'll know a little bit about me, okay? I'm a second generation chiropractor, and I have a lot of experience helping people. And we moved around a little bit when I was younger, right before junior high and high school. You know, that's a tough time developmentally and socially for a kid when you move and you're the new kid when you're going into high school. Ooh, that's tough. You don't have any friends. That's just tough on anybody. And he got there, and he's a superstar basketball player. And this kid, he shoots 1,000 baskets. He sprints, he works out, he does everything. He trained, he worked out. But when he got to this new school, the coach kind of had his own, as he says it, homeboys. So he had his own favorites that had been playing with him since they were little kids. So he wasn't going to break the lineup. So the varsity was those same kids. Even though he was better than almost anyone on the court, the coach cut him. And this kid really remembers it. And when he talks to his patients, he says, I felt really down. I made some poor decisions. I got kind of in with a rough crowd. I started making poor decisions and lifestyle. I just kind of gave up on everything because I did the training. I put in the time. I shot all those baskets. And you know what I realized? That I wanted to be a chiropractor right at that point. And you know why? Because I wanted to help people that were willing to do the training to get the results. See, he did the training without the results. A lot of people think that if you have insurance coverage, you're going to get results. There's hundreds of thousands of people that you will touch in your lifetime that have full insurance, but they don't get results. And he dedicated his life to helping people that were able to make that commitment and training. He was going to help them get results. And then he'll ask the woman or the man or whoever, what would you like to do? And he tells me so often that people, they switch their minds. Here's a chiropractor that I coach in Connecticut. He has a story when he was younger, and his father always had heart problems. He's had pig's valves, triple bypass, quadriplegia. He's had every kind of heart procedure, and he's the oldest. And what would happen every few years, Dad's sick again, and he has 2 younger sisters that are nurses that have to fly from wherever they are. I believe they're in California. He had to fly in, and they always have this thing with the doctor. We're trying to save Dad. We're doing this. We're doing that. And it was almost like this thing that happened every few years. And he tells the patient, and he says, my sisters and that doctor, they said, you know, he suffered long enough. We should let him go. Time out. And he knew better, but he was going through some tough times himself. He had just gone through a Facebook status change, if you catch my name, that begins with a D, and he was having a real tough time. And he shut his mouth, and he allowed his two sisters to browbeat him a little bit, and he agreed with the decision. And when he went to that funeral and he saw his dad in that casket, he made a promise. Whenever there's something that I have to step up and speak out about, I'm going to. And right now, Mary, this is important. And right now, you're not taking your health seriously. And that's okay for you, but it's not okay for me because I once didn't step up. I once slid in the background. I once didn't step up and voice my opinion. But every single person that comes in and gives me the honor and privilege of working on it, I'm going to speak up. Is this something you want to do, Mary, or is this something not? Those two metaphors, and make your own ones up, obviously, but those are powerful enough. You'll see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people change their mind. Is that not incredible? So instead of asking, or rather answering the silly question over and over, because there's no answer to why I can't afford it. There's no answer to my insurance company. There's no answers. The real thing you're looking for is a metaphor, goes to it bypasses a person's yeah buts and their resistance and allows that person to make a decision. Does it work 100% of the time? Come on now. But it does work a heck of a lot better than answering questions. People have been on maybe 10 or 15 or 20 years or more watching this. You're answering the same questions today that you did in the same first day of your practice. My two daughters and son-in-laws, they just graduated from Life University and they're starting their own practice. They're going to be answering those questions differently from the first practice member they have, rather than answering the same questions for the rest of their career. So no matter if you've been in practice for one day or 40 years, you can use it today and get some really great results, yes? So let's go on to the fourth. If my math is right, we're going to go on to the fourth mistake that you're doing, but you can't see it, and you keep doing it again. And here it is. Stop basing everything you do on symptoms. Now, you might not have heard this, but if you can stop and just listen just a little bit, this is how you can differentiate yourself from anybody. You can have 100 chiropractors. We have someone right now that's watching in the Grand Rapids area. There's over 120 chiropractors in that area, that metropolitan area. In Vancouver, there's over 80 to 100. In New York, Manhattan, it's crazy. So there's a huge competition, but there really isn't competition when you differentiate yourself. And here's how you differentiate yourself. There's three types of care, not one. 95% of all chiropractors only offer one. And how come? Because we're stuck in this pain model. Get better. With a patient visit average, meaning how long a person's going to come in, it's less than 8. It's less than 8 visits. And if you're only coming in for 8 visits, you're not going to see anything. You're not going to, you're going to see a little bit of pain or a sprain. What can you do? If you were a personal trainer, what could you do with obesity in a few visits? You can't. And your clinical results are going to reflect it. And you're going to be frustrated because you think you have something that's not super. We're in service to humanity. What we do is sacred, but you won't feel sacred. You'll feel almost used. You'll just, And the 3 types of care, you got your condition-based care, take some edge off people, remove some layers of injury so they quote-unquote feel better. That's important, of course. But when you offer corrective and wellness care, that's what millennials and Generation X demand. They're absolutely positive. They demand it. And you'll hear from the next few mistakes and things people are making, you'll hear me do over and over metaphors, because if you're not understanding how a millennial thinks, then you're seeing older people in your office, or people that are just coming in for a few visits because you're not able to crack their code. Here's what a millennial and a Generation X, this is how they think, if you will. Anyone see how Generation X and millennials, especially millennials, treat their dogs? Now, some people might be laughing right now, but I was in a seminar, and there's a fellow that had been at it for a while, maybe 35 years, and he says, Dr. Kevin, they treat their dogs like gods. Okay. Now, Millennials didn't think it was really funny, but older people did, because the care and kindness and the support, the dedication, the economics that go into that dog are reflective of how they take care of their children. So it's huge. If you're only doing symptoms to a millennial or Generation X, once the symptoms go, what are they supposed to do? They leave, predictably, or they have a very low value on your services. And how come? Because you're asking people, how do you feel? Gee whiz, it could be a minute before a heart attack and you feel just great. You could have an undiagnosed disease and you're going to feel just wonderful. How you feel has nothing, less than nothing, to do with your true health. And again, basing everything on symptoms and things, it's done because they think you've done a great job. They don't know you're looking for something different. They think it's over here. Quick symptomatic relief. You're over here, not with all people, but you're offering people the opportunity to stay healthy. To stay healthy. This is what happens. Generation X and millennials, there's 3 topics that they're pretty checked out on. Here's the topics. Fitness. You can either just lose a little weight to get into that black little number, that little dress, or that teensy-weensy little bikini, or those skinny jeans. You can lose weight to accomplish something, and people will come into your office for condition help or pain relief, and that's fine. But millennials and Generation X, they don't go on their computer for a little while. They're on for life. On for life. Now, some of them are going to learn to pass a test. Now, I'm not talking about chiropractic. I'm talking about, I can see some of you guys, you younger ones, are laughing. Some just pass the test. Others become lifetime learners. You see, they already have this concept. It's just not you because you're basing everything just on pain. Watch for health. There's some people that are still going to just go to a doctor when they're hurt. That's okay. That's there. Remember, Buddha said the original sin is ignorance. What am I going to do? Argue with a guy 2,500 years ago? I'm not going to argue with the Buddha. You're not going to change people's minds. You're not going to help the ignorant. It's not going to happen. You're going to have people that are already aligned with what you want. There's tons of parents that want to be healthy for life. Tons. There's tons of people that want to be fit for life. And there's tons of people that want to be lifetime learners. So we're not creating new people. We're aligning ourselves. And how do we do that? We stop basing everything we have on symptoms. Can't do it. It's old-fashioned. It's silly. If we go to our next mistake, if you will, and this is really big, offer real recommendations. Offer real recommendations. It's the proven way to go beyond paying bills and doing all this stuff. It's like, you can't do it. Just like when we talk about relationships, if you don't make an energetic or an emotional connection with people, they don't trust you. When you're literally saying to come in a couple times a week or 1 time a week, they're not real. And if you look at one of your handouts, you're going to see a paradigm shift. You're going to see 2 circles, very similar to this. And you're going to see in one of them, short-term care only works with disease, very small dollar amounts. People laugh at you. They joke at you. You can't have a dream. Forget about wellness. Forget about kids and forget about a big vision. People will force you how to practice, okay? The proven way to go beyond just getting by, paying bills, a small, modest practice. Oh, this is the way I wanted to. Don't kid yourself. You're fibbing to yourself. Everyone wants to serve more people and have a great lifestyle as an effect of that. That's the truth. But there's a pride that you just won't do it. Making the right recommendations. Here's a little science for you. You didn't think you'd get science on a webinar, and here it is. For a diarthrodial joint to recover, a diarthrodial, meaning a weight-bearing joint, for it to cover, it takes 12 to 16 weeks. Just a tweak to go back to pre-injury status. 12 to 16 weeks for the latest injury. So if we're kind of putzing around with these kind of recommendations and you're seeing a person for a few weeks, there's no healing. Now, you can do some pain relief, and that's your business. And that's one of the reasons the chiropractic is not expanding. We're not showing people the true identity, if you will, because our recommendations are silly. So watch. What if we have a person that's going to require a lot of work? If you were a personal trainer and you went to a person that really got out of shape, maybe they were injured or they just were going through some tough stuff and they got bigger, and you said, well, why don't you come in once a time a week to work out? That person will probably walk out on you and think you're a fruitcake because they know you're not telling the truth. And no matter how many people try to lower your recommendations, like a good parent, you can't go for it. You've got to be beyond that. You've got to say, hey, I'm not doing it. I'm just not doing that. Because every time you do it, you're part of the problem, not part of the solution. Every time you give in to your kids, they're throwing a tantrum. Okay. It's like we cow down a little bit. And I understand it's hard, but it's leadership, not friendship. That's friendship. This is more leadership. And you're not being a mean person, but you're telling them the truth. Anyone watching this, if you've injured yourself or you've had a health type of issue that's resolved, you know it may take months to years, and that's the truth. And when you tell a person, we'll see how it goes, you're wavering, your tail's down, you're getting a little wimpy. We call it pussification, domestication. You're meow. You just you're not with it. And you got to I'd rather be rejected standing before the person in truth than saying, we'll see how it goes, because you're almost in a conspiracy for a failure. You don't have sufficient recommendations to get great clinical results. Forget about wellness and forget about anything else. I'm just talking about upfront clinical results. You're not going to get them. I'm so convinced with coaching so many people that it isn't the chiropractic that lets people down. It's our application of it. And here's the segue into that. As part of you guys watching this, and I appreciate you forming a community and really us exchanging kind of some really useful stuff for you, I'm going to offer everybody watching this, you can have a 30-minute, you can have a video conference, a Skype, a FaceTime, or if you're old school, do you want to have a phone type of a situation, you can have a 30-minute consultation. And what is it going to do? It's like a little mini checkup. It's going to really watch your office. It's going to uncover some of it. It's almost like watching with new eyes, and you say, I forgot to do that, or I haven't done that. And for other people, you're going to realize that you can do anything you want to do, but you need some fresh eyes. You need some guidance. Everyone talks about accountability. You can't give yourself accountability. There's some people watching this for years have tried to figure it out, and it's almost like a person with a bad habit, whether it's substance abuse or alcohol, or you don't want to do this or that, whatever the behavior, and you're trying to do it on your own. It's so much easier and effective. And I think that's one of the big things in chiropractic is the isolation factor. And if you're not willing to join, then you have to be stuck with those results. So I have a 30-minute consult for everybody that wants to do it. Again, just email us, let us know. It's all automated. You get to make your own appointment whenever you want to do it. You're in charge of it. You can opt out. You can do anything you want to do. So again, that's a gift. And it's my way of encouraging you stepping forward to have a relationship with me. We even have some people that perhaps coached at some period or have been to our seminars or have maybe even read our books. This is a way of kind of re-engaging our commitment to each other, re-engaging our relationship. I have an ulterior motive. I think every chiropractor should have a bigger vision than just small recommendations, small practice. And I also think chiropractors, most of us, we need to be in more fair exchange. And that means more income for you to be able to do the things that you want to do, whether it's take a vacations, whether it's home repairs. We have some people holding off children. That's not okay with me. Chiropractic is not about scarcity. It's about this vitality, this abundance, this thrival. That's why I'm offering the 30-minute. Now off to our sixth one. This one's going to, you're going to almost say, it's not that big of a deal. It is. And I have a handout, and it almost looks like a clock dial. You need systems in place. Why do I need patient education systems, Dr. Kevin? They can watch a video, they do this, and this is why. You're going to get consistent referrals. You're going to get consistent, all kinds of the good stuff you're going to get. on a consistent basis instead of hit or miss? How many of you guys have bought stuff or marketing stuff or whatever, or a machine, or we call it a hoodoo or who-dat, and it worked for a little while and you're kind of pretty good. Maybe you made some money, maybe you didn't. But now it's collecting dust, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. This way, if you have systems in place, they're always working for you. It's consistent. Every problem that you have is from a practice member or a patient's lack of understanding. And when we look at all the things that, if you want growth, it's because you have a system. If we don't shove it down people's throats, but we kind of let people make their own decisions. If you want high referrals, it comes from people understanding what they're doing. Long after the symptoms are gone, why do I need to come back in? Patient education. Why do I have to pay outside of my insurance company? Patient education. Why do I have to bring my kids in? I'm not there yet. That's one of the latter ones. Why do I have to bring my kids in? Patient education. See, we're not fighting against people that don't want to embrace and accept new concepts. You're offering it to people. Right now in your practice, if people were more educated, there'd be people that are demanding more of you. They want to come in more often. They'd actually bring their kids. And I know you think once or twice we'll do it. Education is lifetime. For as long as that person comes in, and I'll tell you something that will get me some hate email, but here it comes anyway. Based on the clinical results of helping almost 1,000 chiropractors, here it is. The patient education is more important than the adjustment. And this is why. A great clinician has people that leave when they quote unquote feel better or the insurance runs out, but they don't keep coming back in and referring because they have a very small view of what chiropractic is. That's why the patient education is so important. If you just get used to it with each person, it really helps out. Here's something you can do so easily, and most people have done this, but you forgot. Call people after their first adjustment. If we're in New York, call people after your first adjustment. And you don't see how much weight they lost, or how better they feel, or if they survived your adjustment. You don't do that. What you do is you check in with them. Hey, Mary, this is Dr. Kevin from the Palace Chiropractic Center, and I'm welcoming you. And I want to thank you for taking your journey back to health in this office. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Wednesdays, and have a great evening. And that's it. It's light. It's airy. And I know some of you will be like, what if the person answers? No one answers their phone now. I promise. They all get messages, right? They look who it is. Oh, I don't recognize it. And what happens is that relationship and that patient education, it's the first plausible explanation to a lot of parents, and especially if they have kids that are having issues or themselves. Most people endure chronic illnesses because it takes a little commitment or a little understanding. I can't supply and you can't supply a patient's commitment, but you sure as heck can supply the understanding. People didn't think you could run a 4-minute mile. People in my day, my family doctor smoked cigarettes. They didn't know the connection between smoking and lung cancer. And I know you're all laughing, but you don't know the connection to autism or breast cancer either. There's about 1,000 things that have been linked. No one knows. And yet, time advanced, everybody will know. You get it now? It's so cool when you educate. So one of the things that's the only tool in the history books that has been known to have a long-term impact on ignorance is education. Only. Not solutions, not more money, not more insurance, not more of this stuff. The only thing is patient education. And here's the thing. You can't force people to learn. That's why you need to be in communion with them. They got to really feel you. They got to feel like you can trust. They got to feel like they want you in their life. If they don't trust you, you're not going to educate. How many people, if you pointed out an x-ray, they go, yeah. They'll say anything to get to the good part. It's almost like one of our first mistakes we were talking about not adjusting on the first visit. It's just like intimacy. If you want to be intimate in the first date, that's your business. There's no morale. I'm not here. No, whoa. I'm just going to tell you what the statistics are in that relationship lasting. Ain't going to happen. See, these are universal principles, and you can violate them at your will. The reason that I'm doing this webinar is we get so much email and stuff, and hey, could you kind of show us a little stuff and let us make up our own minds? Is there a way to taste test it? And this is why I did the webinar. I love, I can't wait. In just 20 or so minutes, we're going to be answering all these emails that you guys all sent in. Here's another thing I have for watching. We have a book called Learning to Speak the Language of the Patient. And it's a PDF file just like the No New Patient Solution. And what it does, once and for all, is help the doctor get off the technical language of the doctor. This is how you sound to patients. Hello, Mrs. Jones. You have a phase 1 subluxation degeneration, and you have rotation in here. The nerve and the nociceptors are firing, and the spinal thalamic tracts are... You're like, what the heck just happened? What up, guy? They don't get it. And the more you keep... We have people that are like robots. They keep saying the same things over and over and over because they don't know how to communicate to people. Here's another one. When a person asks you about a condition, this is right in the book. Learn to speak the language of the patient, not the language of the doctor. You got to tune into their world, not our world. Here's another one. A person says during the examination or report of findings or an adjustment, doesn't matter, or on the street, hey, doc, what do you know about asthma? What do you know? Most people start saying, well, I'm glad you asked. I know this, and there's a nerve that goes to the phrenic nerve, that goes to the lungs and the diaphragm. And the person's like, ooh, why are they even asking? They go in this big tech, oh, there's an innate intelligence that expresses this Harvey Lilly. They don't want to hear it because you can't speak the language of the patient. Here's how you speak the language. Mary, who do you know that has asthma? It's my son. It's my nephew. And now I make an emotional connection. Next thing I have is a person that I can serve. It's called a new patient if you want to know, but it gives me the opportunity to help. Instead of me giving a silly scientific answer, like answering people's question why they can't do something, good luck with that, because there's no answer. And here, with that paradigm shift we talked about, and now the patient education type of situation, now what we're talking about is learning to speak so they can understand us. You people with kids know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not relevant to kids, they just have nothing to do with you. They're polite and they look at you, but look, they have nothing to do with you. A dog. If you think you're a leader, how many times, especially with Thanksgiving coming up, you say, oh, this person comes in your house. We've got 4 dogs right now. So we got all these recent graduates of Life University, all my kids, they're getting ready to go up to their practices and start their new lives and practices. So we have 4 different dogs. You can put a leash on the dog and they'll act differently with every person holding the leash. How they can tell if you're a dog lover. I have relatives that say, oh, I'm dog lover. This is how they pet dogs. They're not dog lovers. The dog looks at them and laughs. That's what happens when you can't speak the language or you can't communicate. They laugh at us, and what do they say? I'll go home and ask my spouse. Maybe I come in here once every couple of weeks. I can't afford this. And those are all just resistances based on what? Confusion, lack of understanding. And they don't get what you're trying to do because right now you don't have those communication skills. So pick up the book. It's a free PDF. You'll be amazed. Quick read, fun read, but very, very exciting. It will give you some chops right now that you don't have, okay? So the next reason that we're going to go, and this is kind of a fun one for me anyway, lower the age of your patients. It's a polite word for lowering that age to recession-proof your practice. Anyone that received any of my literature, I said I'd show you how to recession-proof your practice, and I mean it. And here it is. Kids are the most recession-proof entity in any chiropractor's office. No ifs, no buts, no ands. And yet, 98% of all chiropractors refuse to see kids. And if you do, you don't have the protocol. You don't have the evaluations. You don't have the exam findings. You're not able to do the adjustment. Whatever the stories or excuses, and believe me, I used to have a white coat and a stethoscope. I even had a full head of hair. Yeah. So I get it. And when Dr. Joe had to help me through these things, it was hard for me. I get it. But I made the change, and anyone looking at this can too. I got guided, and that's why I'm here today, to hopefully help you to guide. Because if you're not seeing kids, you're missing out. Here's something that's amazing. No insurance company will pay for the long-term care of a child. So if you have a person that comes in, let's say with a breathing problem or learning disabilities, it might take months to years to really see a clinical resolve in these kids. What insurance company do you know that's going to pay for a child's chiropractic care? And the answer is, it's not going to. So once you get that off the table, and here's the thing about millennials and Generation X. 4 dogs in my house. 4. Guess how many bags of food? 4. They're all premium. No one goes to Walmart. I promise you. It's special food for Roscoe. Special food for Copper. Special food for Shady, or Stingray they call him sometimes. And then special for our little guy, Dakota. He's a different age. Every one of them has a premium dog food. And when they get that you can help the nerve system and brain, and one of the reasons that kid's having a real hard time, either he's not making friends, he has sensory type issues, he has speech issues, he has IQ problems, he has personality or behavior problems. When they link that up with a chiropractor, it's all over. Because when you have kids that come in with troubles and issues, I'm not talking about wellness, I'm talking right now just issues. They all know other people. What's the odds of a person with, a pretty tough type of an illness? If you're seeing a person with developmental delay, if you're seeing a person with cerebral palsy, if you're seeing a person with perhaps autism, they all know other families because they're connected. And it's amazing when one child comes in your office, there's others that come in. It's really amazing because you have a patient education system. They can look at you on the web. They can do all these kind of things to find out who you are. They can come hear you speak. They can come in and have a consultation. But if you have one child with a specific type of an illness, you'll get others that come in exactly with it. Because once a parent hears the first plausible explanation for why their kid is sick, it's relationship time. When a kid, for instance, has seizures, if you ask the doctor, why does he have seizures? Medication for the rest of your life. Seizures. Don't know. And they accept that and put the kid on drugs. There's a minority of people that won't put up with it, and they're looking at that. And that's why you got to see kids, or at least if you see a 21-year-older, go down to a 20. If you see a 20-year-older, go down to a 19. Just make the shift. You don't have to start seeing the wheel. I get it. Just go down a little bit. My youngest was 17 when I made the change. I saw a 13-year-old. Then I saw a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old. So do the same thing. Here's the next mistake people are making. They're working in their office and not getting out. How and where to attract new people. Get out of your office. You've got to get out of your office. Collect people's emails. There's so many people. If you have a My Gym or a Little Gym, from 6 weeks to 10 years old, that's their clientele. They love kids. They have roles of maybe 500 in their gym, 1,000 in their gym, and they love chiropractors. You can speak there. You can have referrals go back and forth. They're very, very excited. There's illness groups, but going outside your office to speak at these places, and not to push and sell so much, is just to show people that they have the opportunity. But what we notice with a lot of people, sometimes with big practices and sometimes small, they won't go outside their offices. They only want to work in their office. They don't want to work on the office. And that's a critical complaint, or a component, if you will, to so many people. I'm afraid to go out. People won't understand it. Well, if we don't educate our community, and if we don't get out, how are they supposed to know? So get out of your office. Expand your online and your offline. If you can, if you have the chops, start having a weekly health awareness seminar. Start speaking at other places, at gyms, at women's workout places. There's so many female-only workout places, you'd be a hit, okay? So get outside, fill your speaking engagement, start blogging. Do a webinar like this, whatever you like to do, and have fun at it. Get outside your office, okay? So that's that mistake. The ninth mistake, cash, insurance, or a mix. Which is best, Dr. Kevin? There's no best, if you will, but here's maybe one of the few write-it-downers I have today. I like helping people go from where they are to where they want to be. And I really don't care if you want to do cash. I'll show you. It's the alpha skill. If everyone could do it, everyone would do it. So you need more skill and training, and I get it. But if that's what you want to do, cool. The most important thing to me is to make sure that you're practicing the way you want to practice. The way you want to practice. And that's cool. And again, it's just a matter of training. And it's a matter of saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is exciting. And if everyone started to look at it, I was an insurance 100% dependent insurance. If you would ask me, are people willing to pay cash, I'd tell you you're a cuckoo. I'm a cash practitioner for years. I wouldn't see a person. I'd give them paperwork. They might have insurance coverage, but they paid me. We kept that relationship. They felt it was worth it, what people value, they paid for. So again, cash, this, doesn't make any difference what you want to do. Practice the way that you want to practice. Does that make sense to people? Huh? Because there's an untapped potential in everybody. And whether they have insurance or cash, they're not getting results. Our Canadian friends, some of the most superlative practitioners in the world, they don't have any insurance, and yet they rock. In our group, there's usually at least a couple Canadians in the top 10 earners every year at TNR, and they're cash practices. So not only can it be done, it's being done. The only real thing you're going to decide to do is join the parade or watch the parade go by and say it can't be done in my town, because it can be, I promise you. And our last mistake, and this one's fairly recent. If we have anyone practicing over 20 years, you'll kind of think I threw in a stuffer, and I didn't. This is for the Millennial and Generation X. Stop having gym membership. Stop it. Stop it. We have people that have a monthly fee akin to a gym membership, and that's what they do. We've had as low as $69 a month for an exam, x-rays, and all the adjustments you want. We've had families for as low as $80 a month. You're not a gym, you're a doctor. It's one of the things we really stand up for in our program, helping guiding people, is to get chiropractors back in fair exchange. From here, the things you don't want, and you're angry and you're frustrated because you don't have the living or being able to help the people you want to, and then this being where you want to walk, where you want to be rather. That's the thing. Too many people are giving it away, just trying to get some people in there. You have a person that sees hundreds of people a week and makes $8,000 a month out of fair exchange. And the last point, not a mistake, but one of the last things that I wanted to mention before we get out the webinars, make sure to write me any questions you'd like. Get your free books. Anyone that wants a consultation, please let me know, because this is the thing that really haunts chiropractic. And I've been at it for a while. Isolation. There's a certain pride. It's almost like a problem if you're overweight, if you're shy, if you can't do something. There's only two things you can do: quit, deny, say I don't want it, oh, I'm having a small practice, okay with me, or do something about it. And you know where I'm standing, because I really want to have that isolation. Isolation, I want to get people out of. That's why I'm encouraging anyone. Share it with your social media contacts. Share this whole experience with people. Connect. We get too isolated and competitive as chiropractors. Oh, this chiropractor's doing this in my town. This, work together. By you being more successful, they're going to be more successful. By them being more successful, we're going to be more successful. And that's what I want to do, is I want to hear from all of you. Either like this or get on a consult. Share the social media with someone you know that could benefit from these points, because chiropractic has been real good to myself and my family and all the people I've coached past, present, and future. We want to give back. We want to connect the chiropractic world. We want to get people back in fair exchange, and we want to show how sacred chiropractic can be. Get off your island of isolation, ask for some help, and I just can't wait to either make your acquaintance or remake your acquaintance and get you along this path from here to here where you belong. And this is Dr. Kevin Pallas coming from the New Renaissance with this webinar. Stay tuned for more webinars. That's why I want you to share this with everybody. And thanks so much for being a great viewing audience. And I can't wait for your questions and your not your webinars, but your Skypes and your videos and everything else. Really looking forward to getting to know you guys almost face to face.